Hello, our most valued student. My name is Confident. Welcome to the review of the Mathematics N3 question paper, which was written in August 21. And in this particular review, I'm just going to go through the paper in brief, in summary, just to give you an idea how the paper was, just some comments on how you would have approached the paper. And it is beneficial mainly for those who have written the paper and they just want to have an idea like how they performed, and also for those who will be writing the Mathematics N3 in the next exam that is coming, so that they can also have an idea how the questions are being set. Remember, the trends are changing time and again. The examiners change, and the person who sets the paper, sometimes they bring them for a season, so you might discover that a similar paper or a similar approach is being used in the next exam seasons. So by going through this review, it also in a way prepares you for the next coming exam. So let us look at this review of the paper, and just as a rating scale, if someone was to ask me to say, how do you rate this paper, and how did you see, or how did the paper in a way looked in terms of difficulty, or from easy to difficulty? And to be frank with you, I will put this Mathematics N3 question paper in the rating of somewhere around 7 to 8, and maybe towards 8 somewhere here, because in a way, in as much as you can see, this is on severe, to say from none, mild, moderate, and severe. In terms of difficulty, I would say this was one of those papers, this was one of those papers that the examiner was very thorough. In a way, if it is the examiner whom I'm rating, I will say congratulations. But to the side of the student, I'm saying I'm sorry about this paper if you were sitting for this question paper, because it came in a different approach. It is a new examiner. The way I'm seeing it is not common. This person took their time to bring this question paper. The paper was thorough. The paper was it was more psychological than anything. It has less routine problems like recall or just knowledge applications. It had time and again those problem solving questions which are required in an exam. So if you are sitting for this paper as a student or as my student, I'll say just heart up, or in a way, don't have the word, but to say just be courageous. It will be fine. Wait for your final results. You never know. And if you happen that you didn't get the good marks as you were expecting from the revision that you have been doing, I'm saying there's always a second chance. You can always rewrite, and this time you might be even more prepared for the coming exam. So unfortunately, it was something that if you prepared from the normal previous papers, there was some tricky questions which needed you to be very, very sensitive. It was actually looking for those kind of silly errors, but that are very instrumental in getting this paper correct. So as I said, let us go through a quick review, and I'll just do a few questions there and there, but this is not the main part. This is just a quick review, just to say how did the paper fare, what would have done, and how did the paper in a way look like. Just as a quick review, and then I'll come back to this just in summary. So this was the paper, and these were the instructions. I'll come back to that again. So this was your question 1, your question 2, your question 3, and question 1 was out of 15 marks, question 2 out of 11 marks, question 3 out of 12 marks, question 4 was out of 18 marks, question 5, you see, it needed a little bit of more work. It was out of 25 marks. So this was quite a lot. And question number 6 was out of 19 marks. So question 6 mainly is on your trigonometry. That's what they bring. question 5 is on your analytical or coordinate geometry mainly, and that is also, no, actually question 5 is on graphs. Pardon me there, it's on graph sketching, it's on graphs, and it's on calculus. That is question 5. It is question 4 on your analytical or coordinate geometry, and then question 1, 2, and 3 mainly is your algebra, from algebraic expressions to algebraic equations. So that is that. And let us look at the paper in this case as a review, as I said. Now, just to be upfront, look guys, I'm bringing this as a review to all of you. You are going to be able to access this review so that you can see the paper, but I'm going to do a complete revision session where I will look at each and every question in detail to say how could you have approached it, the different methods, the different approaches. But again, remember, these are what I think would have been the suggested solutions. So if you want to get hold of that, it will be available to our premium students. Those are the students who are supporting this channel. So I will make it available immediately to them. As soon as I get it done, I will make it available for them. These are our YouTube students who are on the premium side. What does it mean to be on the premium? By being on the premium, it means there is a monthly contribution that you are making towards the support of this channel, because remember, it takes some expenses, it takes time, it takes also some resources for us to bring you some of these videos. And for you to be able to see more of these videos, there are people behind who are actually, they are students like you, who are actually contributing each and every month. It's just a minimal amount compared to what you would have spent. And I think you can just check it on our YouTube channel where it says memberships, and then you can see the different packs that you can choose, whether you are in N1, you are in N2, in N3, or in N4. So by supporting this channel, you are actually helping others so that those who are not able to, in a way, get some online tuition or to get some personal tutor, they can be able to use such videos so that they can prepare for their final exams. And also, it is a way of appreciating, to say, listen, I like this channel, I'm benefiting from this channel, can you bring more of those videos? So it is mainly on maintenance than anything. And we are so happy, or we are so grateful for those guys who are bringing this particular contribution so that this channel can be always alive and bringing every time new content for you guys. So if you are our member and you have got membership on this channel, just be on the lookout of this full question paper with answers and how you would have approached it. Maybe you wrote it, maybe you are yet to write it, but it is a good time to do your revision or to have a look at how you would have performed in that particular exam. So if you're thinking of joining the membership, as I said, just feel free. You are more than welcome to join our membership channel. And then it is a monthly contribution. In a way, it is just a small fee that you pay every month, and you can always cancel it anytime if you want to cancel. But as I said, we always would like to appreciate those guys who are bringing this channel or contributing for the production of these videos, and also some of the work behind the scenes which needs some resources. So thank you guys again. Thank you, our members. Thank you. I don't know how to say, but thank you. We're very active members. So what I will do, as I said, is to bring for them first. They are going to be the first ones to get this full video, but after a while, maybe 3 months, 4 months, we're going to make this video available to everybody. But you see, it might be too late for you to revise on this paper. But if you want to be the first one to receive this video in real time, as soon as it is available, just be free to join our membership. Now, as I said, this is for you guys, all of you. You're going to be able to look at this quick review. So this is the Mathematics N3 paper. And in this paper, just to have a look, as you know, it was written, the date is wrong here, but fine. It was supposed to be written on the 25th of July, but because of the pandemic, they postponed it, and it was written in August. I forgot the date, but it was written now in August. So it says programmable calculators may be used. So you can use your normal scientific calculator, just like the one that I'm using here. So this is the calculator. When they say programmable calculator, this is kind of a calculator that they can you can bring into use. Unfortunately, they're saying programmable calculators may not be used, meaning those are calculators which are more like a computer where you can store some information. But the one that is commonly used, which is not programmable, is this Casio. You can use different versions of this, but these are the common calculators that you can use, and they are acceptable because these are non-programmable. All right, so this is the calculator I can use. And then this question paper consists of 6 pages and a formula sheet of 2 pages. So that was that, and it had its own unique code. And I think that unique code, if you are writing that paper, this was the unique code of that paper for July 2021. And then a few things that sometimes get overlooked is the instructions. Some students, sometimes they don't even read the instructions, maybe because they've been writing exams from N1. You've been writing your exams and you've gotten used to the instructions to say these are the same, but always read the instructions. Remember, you are seated in that exam room usually 15 or 30 minutes before the exam starts. When they hand you the paper, the time given in between from the time they hand you the paper to the time to start the exam, that is the time you must utilize to read the instructions. So let's look at the instructions again. This paper is for 3 hours and it is out of 100 marks. So that is the allocation. And instructions and information. Now the first part, it says answer all questions. Now just before I do that, let me just emphasize this to students, and because we always get some of these questions, this paper is out of 100 marks, and students usually ask what is the contribution of my task, which is your test. Remember, you wrote your ICAS, which is for your contribution that the department needs for you to be able to sit for your exam. Now the ICAS do not put more of your efforts to say the ICAS is going to contribute to my exam more than anything. The department, in a way, they are not very open about it, but your ICAS does not necessarily contribute anything to your final exam. It just qualifies you mainly to sit for that exam. If ever it contributes these days, it is very, very minimal. You need to do well in your exam. A minimum of 40% is needed before the ICAS can be of beneficial to you. And one thing that they have mentioned is the difference between your exam mark here. So okay, they say you have your exam mark, and then you have got your ICAS mark. So the difference between these must not be I think it must not be more than 30 or 40%. It must be in between. So for example, if your final exam you have got 60%, in your ICAS you cannot get 90% and above. So if you get more than 90%, the difference is more than 30. So they will say this is not a true reflection of you, because you got 60% in the final exam, but in your ICAS you got 90%. So the difference, if it's too large, that ICAS they throw it away, and then they just take your 60% as is. But just to be upfront, guys, don't rely on your ICAS. Sometimes you find students getting very, very low marks and they're asking, where is my assignment or where is my task mark? And unfortunately, some of these, they don't even contribute at all. So just be on, in a way, focus on your final mark. Your final exam is the one that you must focus on. Don't put hopes on the ICAS because it can disappoint you a lot. Now, let us look again at the instructions. It says you need to answer all the questions and then read all the questions carefully. It says number the answers according to the numbering system used in this question paper. So guys, don't come with your own numbering. Always maintain the numbering, because if you do that, you are going to actually confuse. You might end up having another numbering that is matching another question, so that you might end up being marked wrong. It says questions may be answered in any order, which is good, meaning you can choose to start with question number 4, for example. This is the question. You can start maybe with question number 3, but you need to answer everything on question number 3 until you reach the end of question number 3. So that's what they mean to say. Questions may be answered in any order, but subsections must remain together. And then what are the subsections? They are talking on things like 3.1. You must answer, the moment you answer question 3, you need to go to 3.1, you answer 3.2, and you answer 3.3. Don't leave any of these and then you start question 2 and then you find that you have got only 2.1. Now you go to question 1 and you want to answer 1.3. Such confusion will get you penalized. So don't do that. You just need to keep the subsections. The moment you start a question, ensure that you keep the subsections together. And then number 5 says show all calculations. This is important, all the calculations. Some students, they work on their question paper or at the back of the answer book, and then they don't show the calculations now in their main answers. So you might lose marks there because they need the calculations, even the intermediary steps. These might be the areas where you can score good marks. Says do not do all graph work in the answer book. So there is no graph paper given. The answer book is where you're going to do your sketches, not on a graph paper. So don't ask for a graph paper. And then it might be a chalk, but in one of the exams I was invigilating a student. It was, I think they were writing their maths N1 and their maths N3. So now maths N1 students are allowed to use the graph paper. So what happened in that day, students from N1 asked for a graph paper, and then somehow, I don't know how the confusion got around, but one student from N3 also lifted their hand and they asked for the graph paper. Now, the invigilators were not, remember, they are not the teachers of the subject. So an invigilator may be just someone who's just there to invigilate. So when the student in N3 asked for the graph paper, they were handed over the graph paper just like the N1, because this particular N3 student saw the N1 student raising their hand for a graph paper. So I think they also saw a similar question that says sketch. They also raised their hand for a graph paper. The whole exam, people or the students were asking for graph papers, whether they were in N1 or in N3, just because someone saw someone asking for a graph paper without even understanding the instructions. They started drawing their sketch on a graph paper. And remember, for N3 you do not need a graph paper. You need to sketch on your answer book. So just that someone is asking for a graph paper does not mean that you need to raise your hand also and say, I think I need to also do the same, and just have it in case. So just the instructions are clear. No graph paper. Use your answer book. And then the next part says round all answers to 3 decimal places. So all the answers that we get, don't forget, you need to leave them in 3 decimal places. And then it says diagrams are not drawn to scale. So don't just know that it's just a sketch. And then use only a black or blue pen. Please do not use a Tipex. They don't want a Tipex. Please do not use color pens or color markers. They don't want color markers. Don't decorate your work or beautify it so that it can look more neat and more presentable. That is not necessary. Only black and blue. Write neatly. Please be neat with your work, and legible. Please be clear. You guys don't write like you are hanging on a tree. You know, one hand is hanging and the other hand is writing. Don't use that kind of writing. Try as much as possible to write neatly. All right. So let us look at this review. And how was this paper? As I say, it was in a way one of those papers that was set with time. You know, someone took their time to bring this question to you. Now, question number 1. It says factorize the following as far as possible in prime factors, and this was 4 marks. And in this particular question, you see, that's why it was 4 marks. And they brought something that is not really common, but this is the normal factorization. So as you say, you have to factorize. But the key here, what I usually do, I use what I call the K method. And with the K method, what I usually do, you let this part be K. So what you will have K here, it will be 2K squared plus 11. So that also becomes 11K minus 6. So you will have this. So this is what I factorize. After factorizing using my product sum method, remember the product and sum method, you'll get 2 brackets. After getting 2 brackets, it will be in terms of K. So from there, after getting those 2 brackets in terms of K, and then you will then go back to say what was K. Remember, you say let K be equal to A minus 1. So then you take back that A minus 1 here, and you take back that A minus 1 there. Then you factorize it. It's 4 marks. It's worth it. It is a good way of approaching it, but some are able to factorize it directly like that. You can still do it if you are able to do that. So that was an introduction to this paper. Some of the students already got knocked off in this case because they are not commonly used to this kind of a question. Usually they bring just a straight one, but in this case they brought this kind of a question. And then the next one, which was 1.2, it says you need to determine, if I can look at this, says 1.2 says determine the value of A if f of x gives a remainder of that when divided by that. So again, it's not a question that they have been asking for the last 4 or 5 previous exams, but time and again in the old papers, this was one of the common questions they used to ask. So you are given f of x is that, you see, they gave it 5 marks. Again, I will go through this one. It was not complicated to say, it was not difficult. You just needed to know what to do. There are some of these paper questions that I also do in the revision sessions, and you could have actually managed to answer this if you have gone through our YouTube channel. You would have been able to answer this kind of a question. And also, if you guys have been able to get hold of my mathematics N3 videos or the curriculum, there is a textbook that I have for mathematics N3 that is sold on Take-A-Lot, and that book gives you the foundation of the mathematics N3. It comes with videos. It would have been able to make you solve this question without difficulty. It is not really a question that needs a lot of in a way creativity. It just needs you to know what you're doing. If you didn't practice it, then it is going to knock you off. So that is what I cover there in the mathematics N3 textbook, and you would have been able to do that. So but I'm going to go through this question also when I come back after the review, so that you can be able to see how I approached it. And then 1.3, now 1.3 also an interesting question, 6 marks, not common. It was the first time to see a kind of this one. What is usually common with this paper is they usually bring this question in this format whereby you are supposed to simplify just that, but in this case they also added an extra thing on the side, and that is what justifies the 6 marks, because with that x minus y over 2x plus y, the part there, it made everything a little bit more complicated, and in a way it brought in some confusion to say, with that, how do I approach the common fraction, which actually has a fraction on top and another fraction at the bottom. So already the question on its own, if ever they were bringing this question, it was also good, but to add this part in a way was adding more, more confusion to this question. So it was fine. As I said, it was a question that was, now in this one, we call these in a way some problem solving questions, whereby the level of questioning of the question here between 1 and 10, you'll find that now is somewhere there around 9 to 10. So this was that kind of a question whereby you needed to be very, very careful. It was checking how solid is your mathematics, and are you able to avoid the error in this case. But remember, what I usually do after solving such questions, I even test them, just to see that I did the right thing. Question number 2, it says solve for x in the following equations. 2.1, okay, 2.1.1. It wasn't difficult. We have done some of these questions, so it was a standard question, but using the laws of exponents, how you can split this, you needed to split that, you factorize, it was coming out quicker. Question 2.1.2, it was an interesting question. This was an interesting question, a first of its kind in this paper. I haven't seen, looking at the previous revisions that I've done, this was one of the first time I saw such a question. And you know what, the 6 marks was good. NP, I'll say NP. I'll give it a star to say this question needed you to, in a way, stretch your muscles and just do your best under the circumstances that you're given to be able to get your 6 marks. But was it possible to get it correct? Yes, it was an equation. Remember, with equations you can still prove your answer. So if you didn't test your answer, next time remember to try to test your answers, so you are able to check, did I get it right or wrong. So this was a paper, this was a question that actually made this paper in a way to be difficult and a bit confusing. So this was another question which I'll put it as at between 1 and 10. I'll put it exactly at 10. So again, as I said, the person here brought in something that is not really difficult. It's the laws of logs, the common laws of logs, but with a tweak that you needed to do there. Question 2.2. All right, 2.2 is what does it say? Simplify the following. Again, okay, this is 2 marks, but when I went through this paper myself, it got me confused to say, what do they want here? Because as I say, I was confused and asked myself, what do they really want? But in a way, simplify, you have to do that. It's using the rationalization. You have to rationalize, and this could have been written as m minus n, just to see how it was square root of m minus square root of n. Remember how to rationalize that? You multiply by square root of m plus square root of n at the bottom, but what you do at the bottom, you do on top square root of m plus square root of n. And then what you need to do is to look at this like this. You expand like that, and you expand and expand. So what you do also, you do at the bottom like that, and you do like that. So this was how you could have done that. It was 2 marks, and you would have been able to score your marks in that case. And then let's look at question number 3. Question number 3 also, in a way, if you look at question 3.1, says the length of 2 adjacent sides of a rectangle are in the ratio of 3:1, and the diagonal measures 8 meters. Calculate the area of the rectangle. All right, this was another question that needed you to be a bit more sensitive. In the scale of 1:10, I'll place it around 8 there. So it needed you to be careful. You needed to sketch your rectangle. After sketching a rectangle, to understand what is this ratio 3:1, and also the diagonal. So this is the diagonal, which they're saying is 8 meters, and they're saying the length of the two adjacent sides. So adjacent meaning you can this ratio is 3:1. So if you let the one of the side be x, so the smaller one is x, the other one is 3 times, so it was 3x. So this was the way. So a rectangle has a 90 degrees, so these sides are adjacent, you see, and these sides are opposite. So this is opposite, these are in a way adjacent. So when you have done that, they are saying calculate the area of the rectangle. So the first thing you needed to do was to find x, and you needed to find x by the theorem of Pythagoras. Remember, you have this side, which is your x, you have your 3x, you have your 8, you have your 90 degrees, using the theorem of our Pythagoras theorem to say here x squared plus 3x now squared. If you did that, you're gonna get things wrong. Put a bracket like that, is equal to 8 squared. Why? Because this one x squared, now you see, look at this one, it's x squared plus 3 squared is 9x squared. See that is equal to 64. So you're supposed to solve for x from here. After finding the value of x, you remember the length, the area of a rectangle, everything inside here is length times breadth. So you multiply that after changing the x to put the value of x there, you can get now the area of that rectangle. So that was that. It was a good question that you could have done also. 3.2 says the number of cubic meters of gas which can be delivered by a pipe is given by that, and I will say it was 3 marks, but the amount of work that was needed to say make D the subject, the amount of work to end up having D, the number of steps in here, it was quite a lot. How you get rid of that 100, how you get rid of that square root, how you get rid of that 5/4L, how you get rid of that power 4. So you can see the stages. This is number 1, this is number 2 of the square root, number 3 of the fraction, number 4 of the exponents, and it was 3 marks. Well, in a way, for N3 I'll say it's fine, but it was indeed quite a lot of working, but the examiner chose to give it 3 marks, which is fine for N3 level. Remember, you guys are at a metric level, so you needed to do that. But I will show you also, I will focus on this one and say how could you have done that. Now, so for A, this was fractions. They were in a way basic, but look what they did. They say 2 minus A, and they say A minus 2. So they were just confusing you there. That's why they made it 4 marks, to say you are supposed to convert that into A minus 2 in a way whereby it was 5 now plus 3A over, you take out the negative there, so that 2 minus A become A minus 2. So you see that when you have done this side, you are trying to match this bottom, which is A minus 2, but this negative must affect that positive, so that it's 5 minus 3A over A minus 2 is equal to 4A plus 5 over A minus 2. So the key was you matching that. If you didn't do that way, it was going to be very, very difficult to bring this thing all together. So be careful on that part. That is what the examiner was checking to say, are you able to match these denominators into A minus 2 by changing that or bringing in the negative there. Then after that, you solve for A. Remember, such equations, you can test them. So you're able to test your answer if your answer was correct. All right, so looking at question 4 of this paper, what was special about question 4? I'll say there was nothing special on this one. This was one of the areas where you can get good marks. So this was a part where some of the questions were actually basic in a way, but they needed you to be very, very careful. In what sense? Okay, they are saying A, so they gave that to say you've got A, which is AB, and then B, which are the coordinates of B there, and coordinates of A in terms of A and B, and C, you have got that at the vertices of a triangle ABC. You can see that AB and DF are parallel, so AB and DF, you can see the lines there to show that they were parallel. While DXY, you've got that point, and then you've got E, and then you've got F. They're saying these are the midpoints of ABC, AB, and AC respectively. So that was a question. And then they ask questions to say, first one, determine the gradient of AB. So this was 2 marks. You're supposed to find the gradient of AB. So to find the gradient of AB, so you're given, remember the gradient of a straight line, you're supposed to use that point B and E. So using that point B and E, you're going to find the gradient, and using the gradient formula, that was not complicated. Question 4.2, the coordinates of point A. So from that actually from the midpoint here, this midpoint, you're supposed to use the midpoint formula here to say what is the, remember they said E is the midpoint of AB. So you're supposed to use the midpoint formula then to find that. So I usually I use that method and then compare the coordinates so that you can solve for A and B. I'm going to show you how you can get 3 marks. So this could have been given you 3 marks. And then 4.3 says the equation of the line segment DF, leave your answer in the form of y is equal to mx plus c. So the line segment DF, now here you're using the concept of parallel lines. So if you got the gradient here of m1, you're also going to the same gradient. Remember, they've got the same gradient. From there you use that point. That was basic, it was standard, and they gave you 3 marks for that. The coordinates of D, the midpoint of BC. Now they want the coordinates of D, the midpoint of BC, again a basic one. You have got point B, you have got point C. Now you need to find the midpoint there. It was a basic question, needed you just to apply your formula. And then remember all these, we have got the formulas for these questions, and you're supposed to go to the back of this paper, and the formulas you're supposed to use is number 6. That is where you can see parallel lines, I used that, and then midpoint formula, I used that. It has got also perpendicular lines, it's got the equation of a line, it has got the angle of inclination, and these are the formulas that you use especially in that section. And then the next one says the length of segment DF. So let me look at D and F. Now since you've got the coordinates of D, you could have used the distance formula to find DF. Again, it was a basic question, 2 marks. So that one, so as I'm saying, this was questions you could have been scoring without much complication. The equation of a line that passes through point C, which is perpendicular to AC, in the form of y is equal to mx plus c. So there is an equation that is passing through point C which is perpendicular to AC. So what you need first is to find the gradient of AC, but you've got 2 points. These points will give you the gradient of AC, so m of AC, and use the perpendicular one which says m1 times m2 is equal to minus 1. You saw it in the formulas. Then you use that point, it will give you the equation. Again, basic, not complicated if you have been going through these kind of questions. And then that will give you 3 marks in that. And then the last one, the the size of angle theta, which is between AC and the x-axis. So let me look at the size of angle theta. Now you know the gradient m of AC, so you are using that formula to say theta is equal to arctan m. So if you use that, but you are using m of AC, you are going to find the ref angle. So ignore the if ever, because this is a negative gradient, so ignore the negative sign to get the ref angle. From there, say 180 minus the angle you get, you will get then the actual theta. So I also show you how you do that, especially in the previous revision sessions that we've been having. You can actually check. So this question was out of 18 marks, guys. I say you could have scored good marks here. I say this was where, in this paper, this was the part where you're supposed to take advantage of, because some of the questions, in as much as they were tricky, but this area, the person just made them some routine problems. Just knowing your formulas was what you needed to do. All right, now look at question number 5. Question number 5, this one now is on graphs mainly, and in this part, the first one is given the function defined by that, says use the technique of completing a square, completion of a square. One of the questions there has been some time now without being asked, but all of a sudden they brought it back. Again, check my old videos. There is a part where I do completing of a square, but the tricky part on this one, they just gave you two things here to say 4x squared plus 3x, and they brought it in a different way to say use the technique of completion of a square to find the roots of the given function. So the way they brought the question was actually confusing, because they are not telling you actually what to do, but the moment they say roots, you are supposed to say 4x squared plus 3x is equal to 0. You are solving. The roots means solve for x, but they are saying solve for x by completing a square. That's what they're saying here. That's why they brought it 5 marks, because first of all, you needed to interpret the statement and understand what it means. It means roots means y is equal to 0. That's what roots means. It is the part where if I've got this graph of y and x, it is the part where the graph will be cutting the x-axis. So that's why they call it the roots of the equation. It needed you to be a bit more sensitive to the statement and interpret it correctly. The next one says determine the coordinates of the turning point of the given function. Now it's 2 marks, and the turning point, you can find the turning point from usually from the completion of a square. It can give you the mark immediately, or you can find your dy over dx, but for the 2 marks it was you doing now more work. Find calculus there if you've forgotten how to interpret the completion of a square, because from completion of a square we have got the turning point there, and then use the x coordinate of the turning point and use it to find the y coordinate. That's why the question was determined. It was following 5.1, and then 5.2. In this case, what it says is actually 5.1.3 says draw the graph of the function in your answer book. Show all the values of the point of intersections with the system of axes and the coordinates of the turning point. If you did well these two, this one was supposed to be also something that was not difficult to answer, but it is based on you being able to understand what you're doing there. Again, this question needs you to know the shape of the graph, whether it will be facing down or it will be facing up, and knowing that this is a parabola in terms of the type of the graph. So that is that part. Let us look at 5.2. Alright, 5.2 was also basic. It's saying determine dy over dx of the function this by making use of the rules of differentiation. Guys, what you needed here was for you to convert this to be minus, in a way, if I can say that over here, it's negative 2x to the power negative 1, and that square root is minus 2x to the power 1 over 2. That is what you just needed to do, and from here apply the rules. It was, and then says by making use of differentiation, so that is fine, but look at the answering part. It says the final answer must be with positive exponents. That is where they were going to catch you there. So take your answer back to positive exponents, meaning the way they gave it to you, you see the x was at the bottom and being positive. That's what they want. And in set form where applicable, they also gave you square root. So whenever you leave your answer in this version, you lose marks. Take it back to exponents. That is why it is 4 marks in that case. So be careful. Just doing dy over dx is 2 marks. Now leaving your answer with positive exponent, they'll give you a mark there. Set form, they'll give you a mark there, making it 4 marks. 5.3 in figure, they are now giving you a figure below to say in figure B, a minus 216 is a point on the graph. They gave that graph. The gradient of the tangent of a is that. Now this, and then prove that a is that. This question was 6 marks, and this was another question where I will give a 3-star to say you needed to be very, very sensitive to how you answer this one. They gave a hint, they gave that point, and giving that point, the way they gave it, they are saying the gradient to tangent at a is minus 18. So you needed to understand that statement, the word gradient, and by you looking at gradient, you know you're supposed to use f prime x to get that. So what was happening is you were given a, that point a, you're supposed to come and substitute where there is x, you put minus 2, and then that will be equal to 16. You get equation 1. After that, use this statement, the gradient of the tangent, use f prime x, and then from there, they are telling you that the gradient of the tangent at a, and you've got again point a with x is minus 2. So after that, you say f prime of negative 2. You find that it will give you equation 2. Solve for a and b. It will clearly come out as a is that and b is that, but it was a good question. Not commonly asked in N3, but they are bringing it, so it's good time that you practice with such questions. Then says determine the coordinates of the turning points of the graph at point B. So now when you know, the good thing with this question was like this. Question 5 point, let me look again at 5.2.3, 5.3.2 actually. See, let's say you did not manage to get this correct. So what you needed to do now in 5.3.2, don't lose the 5 marks. You know now that a will be minus half, so you are going to write it as f of x. Now you write what is given. Where there is a, now you have got minus 1 over 2 x cubed, even if you didn't get it right, and b is plus 3x squared. You see, so when they say turning point, you know what to do. Find f prime x of that, and then from there at turning points equate it to 0, then solve for x. You're going to get 2 answers. The first answer that we are going to get will talk about that point 0, 0, and the other answer will talk about the value of x, that point. And then from there, take that x value, substitute it into your f of x to give you now the y value. It's similar to this question here. It's similar, identical to the question here. Says determine the coordinates of the turning point that they asked in 5.1.2. It was a repetition, just that this one was in parabola and this one was in a cubic function. So if you knew that one, you also knew what to do here. So this was 5 marks, but what was more interesting was the 6 marks of that question. So this section is 25 marks, guys. 25 mark. So it was something interesting on that part. And lastly, it was question number 6. And question number 6, in a way, it says it is trig, and in this part of 6.1 make use of trig identities to prove that. So if you wanted to prove that this was 4 marks, it was not that heavy, but you needed to prove it. So knowing your trig properly, you could have gotten that, but always trig sometimes confuses students, but you could have gotten that. And then 6.2 was another challenging question which needed some muscles. It says ABC is a triangle with that A plus B is 90 degrees. Draw a diagram and calculate the value of that. Why am I saying it's challenging? I'm giving it a 2-star because students usually struggle with the sketching of that. And on top of that, look at the question. They wanted you to sketch what we had to do with sine B, but they started bringing 10A. They started bringing sine squared A from this A plus B. So that is where things started getting tricky there. Students started confusing stuff there. All right. Then 6.3, it says consider figure C, which you are given PQR and S are the vertices of a quadrilateral, which represents a plot of land for cultivating different types of vegetables. The plot is divided into 2 portions according to the grouping of vegetables favorable seasons and weather. These divisions make portion triangle PQS and triangle QRS. So that is PQS there, as you can see. They are bringing the PQS and QRS. So they're saying that is how this triangle is divided. And then they gave you some measurement. This is that, this is that, and then they give you this angle, they give you that particular angle. And when you have done that, they ask you a question to say, what was the question? It says, determine the area of triangle PQS. So they wanted us to find the area here of this particular area, PQS. So they want an area there. So they're saying determine the area of triangle PQS. So you're given those part. Now for you to be able to find the area here, A, you needed 2 things. Remember the formula for the area of a triangle is half AB sine C. So you needed to know which side either you are going to take. If you are doing it, you are supposed to know this side. You also know that side, so that you can say half this side and this side sine that side. So you needed to find that angle. You are given that this is 90 degrees, but how do you get this particular angle? That is where this question was tricky. It was 5 marks, and again I'm going to give it a 3-star there to say it needed you to do some bit of exercise there, because with that in mind, what were you going to do? You needed to know a few things. This is a triangle. If you look at this one, this is a triangle. From this triangle you can find this angle, because you are given that 53, that 67 angles in a triangle add up to 180. You get this triangle. From there you then needed to apply the sine rule, because you have got pairs. That pair, you know the angle, you know the side, and then now you know the angle, you can find that side. That is first part. From after that part you go on to find that. So between 2 and 3 it was fair, and it was quite an interesting question in that. Then 6.4 says consider the functions. You are given this f of x and g of x there, and then the first part is draw the graph represented by f of x and g of x. So this was basic, and the question was out of 5 marks, and I think what was more challenging is the shape here, because they used a small scale between 0 and 180. So the shape of the graph was the one that was tricked, because they say show the coordinates of the turning point. So that is where students were challenged to say, how do I see that it was a turning point? Because it just gave you a limited space to draw that, but I'll show you that how you could have done that. And then says intercept with the axis. This is not a problem, but the turning point is what was going to make you lose, I think, 2 marks from there. And then says from the graphs find the value of x satisfying the equation. Then this is now you solving the graph in a way where the graphs are cutting or crossing each other. That part where they're crossing each other is what you needed to solve for that. And this was out of 19 marks. In a way, they didn't bring a lot of marks on trig. Students usually struggle, especially in this section, so giving also you an advantage to say if you had a problem with your trigonometry, because usually it's between 25 or 20, between 20 and 25 marks. This time they gave it 19, so it was a good way. So there is 100%. So now again, to get 40 and above, was it possible? A big yes. But to get 80 to 90, which is a distinction, you needed to know your story. So this is how this paper in a way was. And as I said, just to get a feel of some of the questions, just to bring to you some of these questions and how you would have approached them. As I said, I'm not going to do everything, but I'm just going to do a few of them. For example, 1.2, look at this question. It says determine the value of a if f of x gives a remainder of that when divided by that. So first things first, what you do, you say 2x plus 1, you equate that to 0. Then you solve for x, so 2x is equal to -1, and then you divide by 2. Remember, you're solving for x, such that you have got x is equal to -1/2. When you have done that, you come for your f of x here, which is in this case x cubed minus ax squared plus 3x plus 5. Now the aim, remember, is to find a, so you substitute where there is x, you're going to have that to say f of -1/2. That's what you're having there. And you substitute to say this is -1/2 cubed minus a, and then you've got -1/2 squared, and then plus 3 -1/2 plus 5. Now what you also have to know at the same time is f of -1/2. If you put that -1/2 or substitute there, you need to get that remainder. They say it gives a remainder of 23/8. So this f of -2 is 23/8, meaning what you need to do after solving this, you must also get 23/8. This now becomes an equation for you to solve. So what you do, first add the numbers. So you're going to add that with that and that. You can actually do that straight away with the calculator. So what you'll be doing is you have -1/2 cubed, and then you've got plus 3, and then a -1/2 squared, see that, and then you've got plus 5. So this is what you're having on the numbers. Because it doesn't have a, you can just add those numbers. If you say equal to, you're getting 45/8. So you've got 45/8 minus a. Now if you look at this -1/2 squared, if I can do this, -1/2, and then you square it, it gives you 1/4. So it's -1/4 is equal to 23/8. I think that. Then you have to remember the aim is to solve for a here, and what you do, you take this to the other side so that you've got minus 1 over 4a is equal to 23 over 8 minus 45 over 8. And then you are solving again for a, so it's minus 1 over 4a is equal to, and then you solve that part of 23 over 8, and you've got minus 45 over 8. It gives us minus 11 over 4. You see that? It's up to you how you want to solve it. But if you want to find a, remember a is multiplying that minus 1 over 4. Opposite of multiplication is division. So you can divide by minus 1 over 4. You can divide by minus 1 over 4 so that you can get your a is equal to. So what you have is, can use your calculator, rely on it, it's still fine, which is 11 over 4. You see how you be careful now how you do your brackets. So the bracket here is, you start with the bracket, so the top one is minus 11 over 4. So you put a negative, then put another fraction. Avoid this thing of saying fraction, 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 and then you want to add like that. You get things wrong. So you start with the fraction. On top there is the negative. You put the negative, and then you see 11 over 4. You have a fraction, which is 11 over 4. You go down, and then again you have a negative, then you have a fraction, which is 1 over 4. So be careful how you do that. So you get a is 11. So that is the value of a. So if a is 11, which means you can test if this was correct, because you know that a is 11. So you write your f of x as f of x is equal to x cubed minus 11x squared plus 3x plus 5. See? So how do you test this? So to test it, if I say for my test here, they are saying determine the value of a if f of x gives a remainder of 23 over 8 when divided by that. Remember, my x is minus 1 over 2. So if I say f of minus 1 over 2 is equal to, then where there was my a here, in this part here, if I come now and put 11, I must get that 23 over 8. So if I do that with the calculator now in this part, so it will be negative 1 over 2 cubed, and then minus 11, and then negative 1 over 2 it's squared plus 3, and then negative 1 over 2, because this is how you want to verify that you did well, plus 5. So it must give us 23 over 8. So I'm getting something different there. Let me check if I did well. Minus 1 over 2 cubed, and then negative 11 over negative 11, and then 1 over 2 squared plus 3 negative that, and then plus 5. Now it gives me 5 over 8. Let me just check my simplification again, if ever I did simplify this thing correctly, because if you make an error with your simplification, everything becomes wrong. So again, let me just check here my addition of 45 over 8. If it was done properly, it was negative 1 over 2 cubed, right? And then after that, let me see if the question also, just a moment, if I didn't, this is x cubed minus, which is fine, plus 3 that plus 5. All right, let's do that again. Let's substitute. Remember, x is minus 1 over 2. So if I do that, say minus 1 over 2, this was cubed, right? And then plus 3. I'm just adding the numbers just to make sure that I didn't make that error in the simplification there. This is squared, and then plus 5. If I can do that, I'm getting 45 over 8. And then this 45 over 8, so I took it to the other side, and then it was 23. In this case, 23 over 8, and it was minus 45, which was my answer, which is 45 over 8. I'm getting minus 11 over 4. So let me say that. So I have minus 11 over 4. And then the next part, what I have is it's minus a, and then minus 1 over 2 is 1 over 4, which is minus 1 over 4a is equal to minus 11 over 4. And then after that, divide. So my a is equal to 11. So that is what I'm getting there. For my a is equal to 11. So if I do it again, let me just test, because my a seems fine. Let me see if ever I'm the one who's testing this thing wrong. If I do that, it's minus 1 over 2 cubed, right? And then there is a negative that I'm having there, minus my a is 11, and then bracket a negative 1 over 2, and then I've got squared plus 3, and then I've got negative 1 over 2. All right. So with that, and then I've got plus 5, and then it is giving me 5 over 8. So now I think at this stage I need to check again. My question says determine the value of a if f of x gives a remainder of 23 over 8 when divided by that. So again, let's say let me redo this again, this question. So let's look at it, the first part, first things first again, to say you are divided by that. So it is divided by 2x plus 1. So first thing is 2x plus 1, you equate it to 0. Take 1 to the other side, you have got 2x is equal to minus 1. You divide by 2, and what you have is your x is equal to minus 1 over 2. So that is the first part. And then the second part that you are having is you are having your f of x. Now this particular f of x, what you are having now is it is x cubed, all right, minus a x squared, and then it's plus 3x, and then it's plus 5. And then they are saying determine the value of a if f of x gives a remainder of 23 over 8 when divided by that. So if I put f of minus half, it must give me 23 over 8, because that is the remainder that I'm going to get. So now if I'm to divide now to say f of minus 1 over 2, this is equal to, so I will have minus 1 over 2 cubed, right, minus a, and then I've got minus 1 over 2 squared plus 3. I've got minus 1 over 2, and then it's plus 5. Now remember, this must give me at the end a remainder of 23 over 8. So that is what it must give me. So when I've done that, if I simplify what I'm given here, I've got minus 1 over 2 cubed. It gives me minus 1 over 8. So I've got minus 1 over 8 minus a. Now this 1 over 4 squared, 1 over 2 squared will give me 1 over 4a. And then I've got minus, this one will give me 3 over 2 plus 5 is equal to 23 over 8. Alright, then take the numbers to the other side. I've got minus a 1 over 4 is equal to 23 over 8. The negative goes that side, it becomes positive 1 over 8, and the minus 3 goes that side, becomes plus 3 over 2, and the 5 goes that side, become minus 5. So I've got minus a 1 over 4 is equal to, so when I look at that, I've got 23 over 8, and then I've got plus, in this case 1 over 8, and then I've got plus, in this case 3 over 2, and then I've got minus 5, and then it gives me, so it's 23 over 8 plus 1 over 8 because it was negative, and then plus 3 over 2 minus 5. So I'm getting minus a half, so it's minus 1 over 2. So with that, and then I have now to get rid of divide by what I don't want, which is minus 1 over 4. So that cancels, and 1 over 4 cancels, but what you do on the left is minus 1 over 4. I do on the right. So my a in this case, it will be equal to, so I have got a negative 1 over 2, and then I got a negative 1 over 4. When I do that, I get a is equal to 2. So now this is a is equal to 2. If I can test it now, remember you need to test this. So with your a is equal to 2, if you come back into your a here, so that you've got your 2, and you now input the values, it must give us that remainder. So if I say negative 1 over 2 cubed minus, now a is 2, remember, which is 2 bracket negative 1 over 2, all right, which is squared, don't forget, plus 3 negative 1 over 2, and then plus 5. It must give us 23 over 8. Now it's giving us 23 over 8. It means our value of a being 2 at this stage is correct. So that is how you can test this particular question to say what makes it a be equal to 2. So that is how you would have been able to solve this particular question in this case. So it is not difficult, basic, but you can, in a way, if you're not careful, you can make errors because of these fractions, so you needed to be diligent in that case. So that was that part. Now the one that was following on this one, unfortunately guys, I will have to solve it in, because of time, I am going to solve this in the full video where I'll do this mathematics N3, so check it out. That's where I'm going to focus on that. And also this particular question here, let me just show you this one, 2.1.2 for the logs, this one, which says x let me write it properly there. It says x to the power log x, see that, is equal to 1000 x squared. It was 6 marks, and as I said, I gave this one a rating of 3 because this is one of a kind of a question that they rarely or I haven't seen before, but well, it was supposed to be done. So what you needed to do was to introduce logs on both sides. Because of that exponent, you introduce the logs. So what you do, you say log, you say log. That's what you needed to do. But what is log? You say log x to the power log x is equal to log 1000 x squared. So you see, you just introduce the logs, but using the laws of logarithms, when it's log x squared, this is the law that I'm using. If you're given log m to the power of n, this n, you can drop it down so that it becomes m, actually n, not m, becomes n log m. See that? So that's the same thing. I'm going to drop that so that it becomes log x times, because the n multiplies there, so times, again you have log x is equal to log, now here 1000 x squared, there is a times there, is log 1000. When there is a times, it's plus log x squared. Remember, when you multiply the log, you add from the law, the first law, which says log x y is equal to log x plus log y. So that is the one. So 1000 times x squared is log 1000 plus log x squared. Now log x, we have got now, actually let me leave it like that, as log x multiplying log x is equal to log 1000, which in a way I can say 10 to the power of 3, or you can use a calculator there, plus 2 log x. This 2, similarly like I did with log x exponent, it drops down. Even this 3, it must drop down there, so that we've got log x dot log x is equal to 3 log 10. Now remember, when we're not given any base, there is a default 10 there, plus 2 log x. So as I said, you should have used a calculator if you wanted to say log 1000. The moment you say log 1000, you can see that it's 3, because log 10 of 10 is 3. So now here was the part. You say let log x be equal to k. So where there is log x, all of it you put k, and you put k. So you see how this thing was leading to? It was leading to you to say here k times k is equal to 3 plus 2k, and then k times k is k squared. Take the other k back, it will become minus 2k. Take 3 the other side to become minus 3 is equal to 0. So now you're going to solve this quadratic equation or product sum. It's up to you, but here you had k, I think it's k minus 3 and it's k plus 1. You can check that, but it's up to you how you solve that for k. Just is a quadratic formula. So after that, it's k minus 3 equal to 0, or k plus 1 equal to 0. So what is your k? You can see at this stage that your k is equal to, so minus 3 becomes 3, or your k is equal to positive 1 becomes minus 1. So these are the values of k you have, but don't forget, you started with log. You didn't start it, you said let log here. you said let log x be equal to k. So here you're saying let, or you're saying but, not let, but log x is equal to k. And the first one is, if we can say, when k is equal to 3, right? So we come here and say log x is equal to 3. So remember what we have, the base that is hidden there is 10. So you're going to say x is equal to 10 to the exponent 3, which is equal to 1,000. So that's the first value of x. X is equal to 1,000. The next one, again, log x is equal to k, but now this time k is equal to -1. So what we have is log x, not base x, but log x is equal to -1. Remember, again, there is a hidden 10 there. So what it means is x is equal to 10 to the power -1, which is equal to 1/10. So these are the values of x. The other one is x is equal to, if I can come here, so you saw that x is equal to 1,000, or x is equal to 1/10. So these are the values of x. You can test them here, where it says using a calculator. You can start with the first one. Remember, it's x to the power, so it's 1,000 to the power. So 1,000 to the power log x again, which is 1,000. You do that, equal to, then you get this big number. How many zeros is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 zeros. So we've got 9 zeros. Let's test the other side. Remember, that is my left hand side. Let's test the right hand side. Is 1,000 times, remember, x is 1,000 squared, equal to, check again if it's 9 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So the first one, when x is 1,000, it matches. Let's look at the other one, when x is 1/10. So you have got I think it's better to put it in a bracket. So you have a fraction 1/10, like this, to the power log x, which is fraction 1/10. So we've got that equal to, this gives me a 10. See that? And then what I have, let me have 1,000 times bracket 1/10 squared. See, it also gave me a 10. So left hand side is equal to the right hand side. But something is also coming up to say, if you're able to notice that, for example, look at this. If I say with the calculator, let's say I choose any value of x, especially on the left hand side. If I say 5 to the power log 5, okay, it doesn't work. That I thought it was gonna work, but it's fine. That is totally a different. So it only works for 10, where it says 10 to the power log 10. That's the one that actually gave me 10. So it's not consistent. It's fine. So that is the way you were supposed to solve this particular question. As I said, at the end of the day, you needed to use the K method. All right, guys. No, the other one I'm not going to do, but look at 3.2. It was interesting in the steps that they wanted. First of all, I'm not going to dwell much now. You multiply by 100 on the left, multiply by 100 here, so that, because it's 100/1, that goes. So you have got 100n is equal to square root of d squared over 5,4l. From there, you need to get rid of the square root. You square, get rid of the square root, you square. You see that? So after squaring, you have got 100n squared is equal to, it's d to the power 4 over 5,4l. Then again, you need to get rid of that 5,4l. So you say 5,4l over 1 again times 5,4l over 1, so that this goes, and you've got 5,4l bracket 100n squared. Actually, it's like that, the squared is outside, is equal to d to the power 4. Then from there you find the fourth root, so the answer there, if you write it, you'll have d is equal to fourth root of 5,4l bracket 100 and then you have the squared. So if you look at the steps that they were involved in all this, and for 3 marks, I say maybe a 4 marks way, but this is N3, so it was a good one. You can still get good marks there. So that is how you do it. And then let us look at, okay, this was a fraction. As I said, you needed to do that. I'm not going to focus on that one. Now looking at question 4, as I said, now question 4 was mainly, I'm not going to focus on question 4. It was more standard than anything, but actually there is one question I wanted to show you here. It was a question which says the equation of the line, determine the coordinates of point A, 4.2. They wanted you to find the coordinates of point A. So you see, in this question, you are given a few things. You are given the midpoint, but you are supposed to find the coordinates of that. So first things, you use the midpoint formula, which is m is equal to x1 plus x2 over 2, y1 plus y2 over 2. So you needed to use this formula, but you have got to use b, coordinates of b and e. So this is your x1, this is your x2, the other one is your y1, this is your y2. So when you simplify that, the midpoint there is equal to x1, which is minus 2 plus 3 over 2 divided by 2, and then the other one is minus 3 plus 1 over 2 over 2. So you see, this was going to give us the midpoint. Actually, this is wrong. I'm using the wrong coordinates here. The midpoint here, now I'm finding the midpoint of AC. Let me write that. Of BC, not AC. BC. Midpoint of BC. So I'm not supposed to use the coordinate of E. I'm supposed to use the coordinate of A. So if this is my x1, x2, this is my x2, y2. So when I do it, my x1 is minus 2 plus my x2 is a over 2. You see that? That's exactly how you do it. And then the other one is minus 3, my y1, plus a plus b over 2. So this is my midpoint in terms of a and b. But now something is interesting is they gave you this midpoint. So what you do, you actually know that the midpoint of b of AB in a way, not BC. I don't know why I'm writing BC. The midpoint of the line AB. The midpoint of AB again here. So the midpoint of AB, we know the midpoint of AB, it is E. that e, which is, they gave us the coordinates, which is 3 over 2 and 1 over 2. So we know the midpoint. So what you need to do then is to equate, to say this represents our x of the midpoint and this is the actual midpoint. So you take these two, you equate them, you do the same thing with those other two. So what I'm saying is, you are going to say the first one is minus 2 plus a over 2 is equal to 3 over 2. So that is equal to that. Then after that, you solve for a, you cancel that 2, which is minus 2 plus a is equal to 3. Take minus 2 to the other side, so you've got a is 3 plus 2, so a is equal to 5. See that? So where there is a, you know now is 5. Do the same thing with b, whereby you are saying minus 3 plus b over 2 is equal to 1 over 2. You do the same, so minus 3 plus b is equal to 1. So b is 1 plus 3, which is equal to 4. So in this case, b is 4. So the coordinates of a, in this case, it will be 5 and 4. Does make sense? It's positive. You can look at f is 7. So it makes sense for b here to be 5. And also for this point to be 4. Well, it does make some bit of sense, though it's not drawn to scale, as they were saying. So I'm not going to dwell on other questions, but that was that. And here, on this other part, say this question wanted you, question 5 here, it was saying, given the function this, use the technique of completion of a square to find the roots of the function. So let me just use that in here to complete a square. And how do you complete a square? Remember I said the way they wanted you to do was to say 4x squared plus 3x is equal to 0. You are supposed to complete a square here. First things first, divide by 4 each and every item. And when you do that, you have got x squared plus 3 over 4x is equal to 0. That's the first part. Then from there you have to complete a square, which is x squared plus 3 over 4x plus half the coefficient of x squared, which is that. But look what we put in there. You do it on the other side, which is also 1 over 2 times 3 over 4 squared. This you need to know because that's the strategy that you need to use to complete a square. So it's half of the coefficient of x, and the coefficient of x is that. So when you've done that, you can use a calculator now to solve this, which is your x squared plus 3 over 4x plus now half of 3 over 4, 1 times 3, it is 3 over 8 squared is equal to 3 over 8 squared on the other side. So when you do that, it's up to you now how you want to simplify this further. But what you do when you've given that, you now have to take this squared. You see this one which is in squared, you can put it like this now to say x plus 3 over 8 squared, you see that, is equal to, so what you have there, 3 over 8 squared. You can simplify this now on the other side to say 3 over 8 squared in a way. It gives us 9 over 64. So you can have your 9 over 64 there. Then you square root. But when you square root here, you say plus or minus. So it will be x plus 3 over 8 is equal to plus or minus square root of 9 over that is back to 3 over 8. See that? So you'll have two answers. Take this 8 to the other side. It will be x is equal to minus 3 over 8 plus or minus 3 over 8. So the first one, take the positive one, is equal to minus 3 over 8 plus 3 over 8. You can see this cancels to give us x is equal to 0, or x is equal to minus 3 over 8 minus 3 over 8, and then you've got x is equal to, when you do that, then you've got negative 3 over 8 and then minus 3 over 8. It gives us minus 3 over 4. So now the question is, use the technique of completion of a square to find the roots. So these are the roots of the equation. X is equal to 0. This is the root, and x is equal to minus 3 over 4. Now remember, even if you're solving for x here, just to show you, if I'm solving for x, so not to remove all my answers, I'm just interested in that if I'm to solve for x, remember it's 4x squared plus 3x is equal to 0, right? So if I'm solving for x, first factorize, take out x. I've got 4x plus 3 is equal to 0. Either x is equal to 0 or 4x plus 3 is equal to 0. This is the normal way you solve. So you take that, this is 4x is equal to minus 3, you divide by 4, and then what we have got x is equal to minus 3 over 4. They will not have given you any marks here, but I'm just trying to show you that these same answers are what, but they needed you to complete a square in that part. So okay, you're supposed to do all this other part. Unfortunately, I wanted to do this 5.1.3. It is interesting, but I'll do it in the full version so that you can look at that 6 marks. And the other one that I just want to check, one question that I think I can do there is 6.1. This proof, just to on trick, to say you are given, make use of the trick identities to prove that this is that. So what you have here, remember sec squared is 1 over cos squared x, that is your sec, times, now cot, remember cot is 1 over 10x, but which is same as opposite is cos x over sine x. Why? Because 10x is equal to sine x over cos x. Then cot is the inverse. You inverse, cos is on top, sine is below. So remember that. So with that in mind, I'm going to then write to say, they say times cot, which is times cos squared x over sine squared x, already something interesting, minus 1. So I'm choosing here the left hand side. They want me to prove, so I'm starting with the left hand side, which is equal to, so this goes, which is, I will have, it's a 1 times 1, it's 1 over, there is 1 times sine squared, it's sine squared x, and then it's minus 1, then which is equal to, this is minus 1 over 1, the common denominator is sine squared x, it's a fraction, sine squared x into sine squared x is 1, 1 times 1 is 1 minus 1 into sine squared x, it's sine squared x times 1, I'm getting that when I add as a fraction. Then I come back to remember this identity, which is cos squared x plus sine squared x is equal to 1. You need to remember this identity. If I can bring it in, we got it. Yes, we got it in this formula. We also got cot in here. Remember, I was using cot, but this is the formula: sine squared theta plus cos squared theta is equal to 1. So if I'm using it here, so now if I take this sine squared to the other side, I will have cos squared x is equal to 1 minus sine squared x. And if you look at this, this is what I'm having here. So now that's what I'm going to substitute with cos squared x for that. So what I'll have then is I'll have cos squared x over sine squared x. Now cos over sine, remember, is cot, so this will be cot squared x, which is equal to my right hand side. So that is now the 4 marks that they needed here. And as I said, this question is on trig. It went on further to ask more questions, and until you draw the graph, and it was out of total of this question was out of 100 marks. Now if I say it, guys, to reiterate, I'm going to do the full version of this paper, and after we have managed to bring it to produce it, we're going to bring it to you guys so that you can have a look at how the paper looked like. But this was just a review for you to be able to see how the paper was, and to be able to kind of just get an understanding of how they are bringing in these question papers, so that you can also prepare in real time or in relevancy to say this is how this question is shaping in the current stage. So I wish you all the best again in your exams, and as you're preparing also for your next exam, just be on the lookout of some of the tricks that they are bringing in. Now, as I said, I'll be bringing a full version of this for our membership students. So if you are part of our membership, you are going to get this, but if you have not joined, please feel free to also join for that. And also be on if you want to purchase our mathematics N3 for the underdogs. I call it for the underdogs because it is for someone who says, I'm struggling with maths, but I know it is possible for me to pass it. I can be as at the bottom, not understanding anything, but after going through that book, I promise you, you will be in a better position to face such exams. It's Maths N3 for the underdogs, but it also comes with videos which makes it easier for you to understand without having a teacher in front of you. Just grab hold of it if ever you can on Takealot. It is sold on Takealot, and when you get the book, you'll see a code which allows you to get access to the videos, whereby we're going to enroll you for the online videos and you can be able to see those. Guys, we've come to the end of our session where I was looking at the review of the Mathematics N3 paper, which was written in August 2021. See you again. Thank you.